Hello, love. Welcome back. If you're new, my name is Jennifer Laurel Keller, and I'm an acrylic and mixed media artist and instructor. Today, I want to talk to you about how you can ground your mixed media art by making a horizon line. I always recommend just having one thing that you want to accomplish in each piece. And for me today, it was making a horizon line. And it helps to just have one goal that you're going to build your piece around, because if you're into mixed media, it's likely that you have a lot of materials. I know I do. They're taking over. So I could get so many things out and try and cram them all into one piece. But if I just have one goal and I know that I want it to be the focal point or be the theme, it really helps narrow things down. So here I've taken this nice scrolly piece of paper and applied it as the ground to my artwork. And then I'm going to build up from there. I have some book pages, and I'm going to get a little bit lighter as I reach the top to give the impression of light being up in the sky. So we have this kind of ethereal landscape being built right now, kind of this fantasy abstract landscape. And I'm including a lot of textures, lots of patterns, lots of written word, some sheet music. And I'm just going to cover up this canvas, which I actually got used. I found it at a junk sale. And it looked like a couple layers of acrylic paint had gone into it. So this could possibly be the third painting that this canvas has seen. But I kind of like how it was dark to begin with, because the edges of the canvas are painted this dark color, and it looks pretty cool when you look at it from the side. So I'm just working my way up with these vintage papers, and some of them are handmade. Some of them even have botanical dried leaves in them. And I especially love this piece of tissue paper, which I scrunched up with some medium and then went over the top of to seal it in. And then I just ripped off the sides. So I also had some fabric that I wanted to use. This is a thrifted piece of a dress. And I come back to that in a minute and I'll explain more. But for right now, I'm just doing a base layer of papers and trying to get as many textured papers as I can, so that when I do an acrylic layer over the top, it'll pick up all of those ridges with the paint. And so even this one is like, it almost looks like dried grass, and it's very, very textured. So I am going to now add some gesso. And gesso goes on a lot like white acrylic paint, so you could use acrylic paint here too, but gesso just has kind of a cloudy look, which I like. And if I dry brush it on, I can see a lot of the details from the papers below. I can read a lot of those book pages. And then just kind of at an angle, I take my brush and go over the top of that tissue paper to give it more texture. And then I can even do some drips over the paper on the bottom. So the more layers and textures I have, the better here. I barely ever paint with solid colors that are really opaque and just, clean and solid. So I love to see things peeking through from the layer before. And a lot of times in mixed media, we see all of these focal points kind of floating over a background with no bottom to it. And it kind of gives the impression of kind of a dreamy composition. So in this one, I wanted to put a horizon in so that I could ground the piece a little bit and give it more of a space, give it more depth and layers. And when I say layers in this way, I don't mean layers of acrylic and papers and stuff like that from going from the canvas outward. I'm talking about vertically. So there's a foreground and then kind of a background, and a midground and all of that. So it gives the piece a little bit more depth and a little bit more stability. The elements have something to rest on, and it makes it seem like there's just this fun landscape happening. And it also reminds me of layers of rock and mountains and sand and dirt and kind of like the layers of the earth, like a cross section of the earth, which is kind of cool. It's kind of just an interesting concept to play with visually. So I'm just layering up all of these strips that could be different ridges in a landscape, or maybe different layers of rock and dirt and things like that. Okay, and so I had a bunch of things that I was playing with, and at a certain point I just had to commit. So I have this calendar, strip of calendar numbers and days of the week, this piece of lace here, and some packaging, which just came out of a shipment, doing lots of online shopping these days. And it has these cool holes in it, which I tried to break up, and that gave a really, really interesting texture there. So I just snip off the edge, and then you have this cool texture there. And I go over the top with acrylic gel medium to seal it in. All right, so now I'm going to focus on what's above the horizon line. I'm choosing more of a botanical theme here, and I'm just playing around with different elements, different focal points, and supporting imagery. And I really land on this flower theme, kind of this leafy, branchy flower theme. So I have those that I'm considering, and now I'm coming back for that piece of embellished fabric. It has some sequins and beaded, hand beaded pattern on it, and it's really, really gorgeous. I got that at a thrift store and cut it off of the dress. And I do find a lot of beautiful handmade garments in the dress section that are just perfect for mixed media. But a lot of the times they're kind of falling apart. So I'll talk about how you can make them more sturdy in a moment. So drips and splatter here. And now I'm going to arrange my little vignette of flowers and branches and organic texture. So I have it how I like it, and now I'm just going to set those elements to the side because I have to do my glue down. And so I'm kind of bouncing around. I did this little branchy fabric piece there, and just getting the layout I like. And you have to do what's in back first, of course. And let's zoom in on that. So getting the flower over that piece of tissue. And notice with these tissues, some of these flowers are from a napkin, and some are from a more sturdy piece of paper, like a scrapbooking paper, and some are completely organic and fibrous. So the ones that are on tissue just kind of fade into the background. They just kind of melt away, and the print is what's left. And I absolutely love that. It gives it a really nice soft look, and just I'm having a lot of fun mixing that up. And then I have some more sequin fabrics, embroidered things. That's a little strip that I cut away that I'm considering, but I'm going to get this bigger chunky piece down. And sorry, it's kind of cut off there. It's better. Okay, so I'm just going to push that in, and then I have some threads that are unraveling. So I decided to go over the top and do the acrylic gel medium. And this is going to keep all of those loose threads in place from now on. So when it dries, it's going to be clear and it looks fabulous. So pretty. Okay, so I'm cutting out closer to these sequin pieces here, and just going to overlap a little bit just give a little bit of bling to that top area to tie it in with the larger piece of sequins down below, and mixing it into my little bouquet, my little garden vignette that I have over my horizon line. And you could do anything you want up here. You could do a cityscape, you could do a forest, you could do any type of theme you want. And I chose the flowers because I had them on hand. And it just kind of went with my natural theme there. But by having the horizon, that grounding element with all the layers in the foreground, it gives all of my flowers just kind of a nice little level area to hang out and be a focal point without floating around in this background that I see in a lot of mixed media, and I do it too. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different approach to a composition. All right, now I have some Payne's Gray and White on my brush that I've lightened quite a bit with some tinting and added some color, and also doing a palette knife layer over the top of that with some white. And now I'm taking a little bit of green and popping it under the flowers to connect that a little bit more. And some dark blue. It's Payne's Gray, but it's a dark blue to embellish and give some shadow in that area. Now I have my charcoal pencil and I'm doing a light layer over that crinkly tissue paper. And it was still just a little bit tacky from the acrylic paint, so I had to really be patient and work it in, but it gave it just a little bit of more of a grungy look. And some palette knife work over those textures. And now I've added some water to the acrylic white paint, and I'm doing some splatter and just a little bit more green there, a lighter green over my, it's kind of a grassy area, I think of it, under the flowers, and a few splashes up at the top. And it's coming together really nicely. Okay, just a few more areas. Playing with my brush, just kind of dancing around. And it's done. I sign it. I always forget to sign things, so this time I made sure and signed it. So that's everything for today. I have this piece up in my shop on my website, which I will link down below if you're interested in having a closer look. And if you want to kick up your mixed media artwork into high gear, I have 23 mixed media, acrylic painting, color mixing, and creativity coaching classes on Skillshare that you can check out to help with the process. All of the links you need are down below. And one last announcement, I'm working on my goal to get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers so that I can monetize my channel. And once I pass 1,000, they let me make longer videos and I can start to earn some extra revenue, which would be so incredibly helpful. So I would really appreciate it if you would hit subscribe. And thank you so much for joining me. I love you all. I hope you have a great week. Happy creating and much love.